A daredevil skier slips off a bridge into a dangerous freefall.
One false move here and he could die.
An off-road race driver cheats death in a first-of-its-kind 360 barrel roll.
This could be fatal.
And a daring free-dive duo tests fate to swim in shark-infested seas.
You just have the one breath that you take up in the air, and that's all the time you get.
Fact, fake, or fluke? We'll dissect these amazing web videos and break down the science behind them. Right now on Superhuman Science. In Twin Falls, Idaho, USA, a daredevil and his crew prepare a makeshift ice ramp high above the Snake River Canyon. Meet Mike Wilson. He's a free skier known for remarkably risky stunts.
It was pretty clear that, if I'm ever going to do it, this is the time to do it and the crew to do it with.
This one's a little dangerous.
One false move here and he could die.
Oh my God!
To be honest, it was probably one of the scariest things I've ever filmed. As I looked over the bridge, all I saw were the bases of his skis and just all kinds of tangled lines.
You know something's wrong when he goes over the rail.
This trick is not going well.
Mike's crew wasn't sure if he was gonna make it.
Oh my God!
There's a sense of fear that, oh my God, this may be the last time we're filming him. We may be filming his death.
But Mike cheats death, recovers in time, and lands unscathed.
This is, truly death-defying. The craziest part is that he lands and says, we got to do this again so I can really get it right.
I was shocked that he actually wanted to try it a second time.
He had nothing else in mind other than to try it again.
Our experts say Mike is a classic adrenaline junkie.
There's very little else that feels this amazing. There's a sense of euphoria. It's like a drug.
In the face of danger, the hypothalamus in our brain alerts the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands release the hormone adrenaline, and that triggers the heart rate to increase, lungs to dilate, and muscles to contract, so our bodies are ready to confront the perceived danger.
That adrenaline rush really makes you superhuman for a period of time.
So, despite Mike's close call, he tries the stunt again.
He lands on that railing perfectly and really just sort of does a coordinated fall this time and releases his chute with enough time to actually have a nice gliding land on the water.
So how does he do it? In this stunt, timing is everything.
Base jumping is different from skydiving when you've got all that time to worry about deploying your chute. When you base jump, you often have to deploy your chute immediately.
There's little time for any free fall.
The bridge is only 140 meters high, which means it's only 4 or 5 seconds before he's going to hit the ground.
It's really the split-second decisions that he makes that are the difference between life and death.
And this time, everything goes as planned. Mike Wilson's amazing stunts place him in some rare air. Few mortals could do what he does. In our book, that makes him superhuman.
Talk about a perfect landing and a perfect performance for this jump.
He did this stunt twice. I would not recommend doing it a third time.
From a stomach-churning ski-based freefall, we shift to a daredevil driver in a 360 barrel roll. In Baja, California, Mexico, off-road racer Adrian Wildman Cheney attempts an unprecedented stunt. A barrel roll. This could be the first ever ground-to-ground 360 in a four-wheel vehicle.
You want the truck to land on its wheels on the other side. If it lands any other way, this could be fatal.
Worst case scenario here is that he doesn't complete the rotation on the jump and he's crushed to death.
And Wildman makes it.
Came up with a very sturdy ramp. So far is working very well, so we're very happy.
Even in front of throngs of fans, it's hard to believe he did it on his first try.
If
all of the people weren't there, you would probably think that it was manipulated somehow in visual effects. But it's hard to fake a stunt when 1,000 people are watching, so there's no doubt it's real.
Barrel rolls are nothing new, but what makes this one so special is the landing. Wildman doesn't ease his wheels onto a perfectly placed down ramp. Instead, he slams down on the hard, cold ground.
I don't care what kind of suspension you have on there, it's a pretty severe and traumatic impact.
He's gonna feel like he's been in a car accident and feel beaten up.
But Wildman escapes without serious bodily harm, which makes this landing even more extraordinary. So how does he do it? The real science behind this stunt is all in the takeoff. First, Wildman's ramp has to be built at just the right angle.
If you're trying to launch something off the ground and give it the biggest airtime, you would want to shoot for about 45 degrees.
If the ramp were much steeper than 45 degrees, he'd have too much hang time and too hard a landing.
Any basic engineer should be able to calculate this and make sure it works, but there's still the fact that the person driving it has to hit the right speed and exactly the right place on the ramp. I'd build the ramp. I don't think I'd drive the truck.
The second part of the equation is torque.
Torque is something that makes you flip. It's a force that turns something, it rotates something.
Wildman's team custom designed this 3-meter tall ramp to create the perfect amount of torque.
You see, you have the 2 ramps at the bottom that let the tires of the car go on. And you have the 1 pedestal ramp, and that's the key to make it flip. That's what's going to apply a torque. That pushes up on the car from the one side. Gravity is pushing down on the car from the other side, and that makes an axis of rotation along the center.
The laws of physics tell us that the truck could keep spinning indefinitely if it weren't for the ground getting in the way.
Basic high school physics. He's a projectile, he comes off a ramp, gravity's gonna pull him down. How long he is in the air will depend on the height of the ramp, the angle at which he exited, and his entering velocity to the ramp.
The entire stunt lasts just a few seconds, but it took Wildman and his team 2 years and over 30 test runs in a practice pit to get it right.
What I want to do is just go and, with baby steps, work my way up to doing a stunt. The whole idea was, you've got to get the truck weightless just for that fraction of a second, and then you can start the rotation.
You have to take into account things like the height of the ramp, the mass of the vehicle, the angle of the ramp. All of these things must be meticulously planned, and they were. And that's why this is so amazing.
Amazing? Absolutely. Superhuman? Probably not.
While this guy is daring, he just had to keep the truck straight and at a specific speed. It's the engineers who built the ramp who did all the work.
Super planning. That's what it took to make this actually work. And it's a super application of the laws of physics.
From a record barrel roll, we switch next to a daring couple who risk their lives to free dive with sharks. And still to come, science transforms this drummer into a bionic Superman. And some mind-boggling table tennis trick shots you won't believe. In Honduras, off the island of Roatan, a freediver swims to the bottom of the Caribbean Sea with only the air in his lungs. He seeks a potentially deadly encounter with a true menace of the deep.
In the water with sharks, no tank.
If you make the wrong move, they could...
This is really a double dose of death-defying.
A second freediver freezes below. Circling overhead is a predator that reaches up to 3 meters and 70 kilograms.
These are Caribbean reef sharks. There have been 27 instances of this type of shark attacking people.
Anything with teeth can bite.
So we're not certain that these divers are not going to get attacked.
These fearless divers are Eusebio and Cristina Sáenz de Santa Maria. They're free dive record holders and husband and wife.
To be underwater with them and to be able to share the ocean with these fantastic creatures. I want to see more sharks, I want to see different species of sharks, and I want to see them around the world.
For me, to look into the eyes of a shark is incredible, because what I see is a primitive creature that acts on pure instinct.
So how does this couple survive their risky underwater adventure? Our experts dive into the science.
It's not just sharks. It's the risk of passing out, drowning.
This is really a physiological feat and a mental feat.
You don't have an external supply of oxygen like scuba divers do. You just have the one breath that you take up in the air, and then you go down, and that's all the time you get.
The key is inner and outer calm, and only small fluid motions.
You can see here at one point, she's facing the shark and the shark is almost coming face to face with her.
Inside a shark's head are hundreds of electroreceptor sensors, jelly-filled pores lined with nerve cells. These receptors are so sensitive, they can detect even the faintest change in the beating of a human heart in the water around them.
It is very crucial here that the divers stay very calm, avoid any rapid motions that the shark could deem as threatening.
These seasoned free divers are experts at staying calm.
You can't really get too stressed about it, because otherwise your heart rate is gonna pump out much faster.
They know that to survive, they must conserve oxygen.
One thing that expends oxygen is having an increased heart rate.
These guys are having to really slow down their heart, and some of them will slow down their heart by half or even potentially 2/3, down to 20 beats a minute.
Preparation for this feat means inhaling more air.
A free diver can train to be underwater for easily 3 minutes, maybe 4.
A free diver knows how to put air in other places, how to use the muscles of their abdomen and of their throat to do what's called lung packing.
And the way you train is with apnea training. It's basically timed intervals of holding your breath and then resting and holding your breath again.
But holding your breath for too long robs your brain of needed oxygen, and without oxygen, your body shuts down and you pass out.
A blackout here is deadly. Underwater with sharks, it's not where you want to be.
Eusebio and Christina surrounded by sharks is exhilarating to watch, but are they superhuman? Our experts are mixed.
To go free diving with sharks, these guys are reaching another level of superhuman.
It is crazy, it is dangerous, it is beautiful, but not superhuman.
From free diving with sharks, we turn next to a bionic hand on a superhuman drummer. American drummer Jason Barnes lost his right arm below the elbow in 2012, but that hasn't stopped him from playing music. Today, he uses a double drumstick robotic arm that looks straight out of a science fiction movie.
It's a mix of man and machine.
To play this instrument with one prosthetic limb and play it at such a high level, it's really an extraordinary feat.
The motion of drumming requires a lot of very subtle wrist movements, and to do that all with prosthesis is really incredible.
To keep making music, Jason turned to the Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta, USA.
This brings medicine with engineering, with robotic technology.
They've basically built a prosthetic arm and basically wired into it sensors.
Jason's arm is bionic, and while small motors power the arm, it's his brain that controls it.
Something bionic is like an extra part of your body that you can kind of graft onto your body to give yourself extra abilities.
Jason's brain sends signals to control the drumsticks both physically and electronically. Nerves in the brain talk to the twitch muscles in Jason's arm that used to move his hand. Only now they control his bionic arm.
So the muscles in his bicep that ordinarily would have controlled his hand are controlling this prosthesis in basically the same way.
And Jason has adapted to it to make more music than he ever imagined.
So there's sensors that push up against my muscles that allow me to flex and send signals to the computer that will essentially tighten or loosen the rebound in the stick. So I can get really slow bounces or really fast bounces, anywhere from drumline stuff to just normal playing drums.
The second drumstick is programmed to operate autonomously and respond to what Jason plays with the first stick.
They didn't just give him a drumstick on a prosthesis. They gave him 2 drumsticks, one of which is hooked up to his bicep and responds to his muscle movements, and the other of which is improvising based on what it hears the first drumstick do.
Basically, there's a computer chip in there that is sort of listening to the music and sort of freestyling.
It literally hears what the first stick does and then improvises based on that. This is really cool technology.
The bionic arm has improved Jason's drumming skills and his speed too.
So there's the robot playing things in between what I'm playing. So you essentially have 3 sticks, but even then, speed-wise, I can make this stick single stroke faster than humanly possible. Faster is always better, especially in drums. I know there'd be a lot of metal drummers out there that would definitely be jealous.
Jason and his bionic arm make a hard-hitting team, but is it superhuman?
I mean, this is really an example of superhuman science with no clear limit at this point.
This guy is literally superhuman. He's augmented his body with this bionic arm.
If we define superhuman as having given yourself the ability to do things that most humans are not born with, then yes, this is superhuman.
From a bionic hand, we move next to a man who displays signs of unusual magnetism. In Tbilisi, Georgia, an ex-Soviet kickboxing coach displays a bizarre talent. Metal spoons hang to his chest and back. A world record-breaking 53 spoons in all. He is Eitabar Elche, aka Magnet Man.
Magnetism is interesting because it demonstrates just how weak gravitational force is.
A common trick is balancing spoons on your face, on your nose. We've all tried that, have we?
Eitabar also demonstrates how a car bonnet sticks to his chest. Then he adds the weight of a man and pulls a car forward. But is it real magnetism?
I don't actually see any signs of video manipulation, but that's not to say that something else isn't going on and being faked.
While the video is real, our science experts raise several red flags about human magnetism.
Science can test for the presence of a magnetic field. There are plenty of instruments that can detect one.
We should be able to hold a compass to him, and that compass should go haywire.
But it's never that they have the sensor show the presence of a magnetic field. It's always, look, a spoon sticks to my neck.
If he in fact had a special talent like this, he'd be able to do this with a shirt on.
Then there's Magnet Man's stance.
You'll notice that the spoons are placed very carefully so that they can basically balance against the body.
The straighter you are, the more likely those spoons are going to fall off. And so that's why the location of where he's balancing those spoons is quite important.
You see him take the hood of this car and stick it to his chest, but he's not standing straight up. He's leaning back really far. Well, if I lean back really far, you can balance a lot of things on top of me too. I'm not magnetic.
So what's really going on here? Our Magnet Man uses biology to his advantage in this stunt.
The body secretes something called sebum, and it's basically a waxy substance like sweat. Some people secrete more of it than others.
He's not showering, allowing sweat and bodily oils to accumulate over a period of time.
That kind of helps. That helps you stick something to yourself when you're sweaty.
Without friction, this Magnet Man would be less attractive.
If you were able to remove the component of friction, you could see that there is no magnetic feature to this feat.
While our Magnet Man might not be superhuman, our experts agree he is super sticky.
It's a great balancing act, but that's about it.
Maybe he has a magnetic personality, but he's not magnetic.
The ability to stick things to yourself magnetically is truly superhuman. Unfortunately, it's impossible.
Finally, we swing from magnetic acts to the science of table tennis trick shots. On a skateboard, off the wall, and down the rail. they nail the shot every time.
These are some fantastic stunts that these guys have set up, and this really just shows their creativity.
These guys make their shots look effortless. The best? 7 stories up. Right in the cup. So are these shots real or video tricks?
It's very hard to manipulate those types of things in visual effects. So I think that this is actually real.
So maybe they're just lucky shots.
These aren't flukes, but it definitely didn't happen at a first go every time. They definitely had a lot of trial and error, a lot of attempts before the tricks actually worked.
Our experts explain the science at play here. It starts with the physics of projectile motion.
Projectile motion is when you have some object that's moving through the air unattached to anything else. So the only force that's acting on it is the force of gravity pulling it downward. You have a velocity given to it in the horizontal direction that does not change at all, but the velocity in the vertical direction changes because of the force of gravity.
In order to make these shots, these guys use gravity to manipulate the ping pong ball.
These guys are very controlled in terms of applying the right force, get the right momentum and speed, and have that ball land and move exactly as they need it to.
They're also working a little geometry.
They realize that the angle of incidence that's hitting the wall with is going to equal the angle of reflection that's going to bounce back with.
A ping pong ball is a very solid material, and each of the materials they're bouncing this off of are also extremely solid. No elasticity means that this should be a very predictable bounce.
So, can any one of us pop one like this?
Obviously, they have way too much time on their hands to concoct all these different situations.
While we give these guys huge respect for their ridiculously great trick shots, we can't quite call this superhuman.
That said, some of these shots are pretty fun.
Obviously, these guys put a lot of time and effort into honing these tricks, and it's just cool to watch.